Hello, Dr. Sullivan. It's Trevor doing my psychological aspects of sport and exercise presentation. I don't know how to do like the screen so that I'm also on it at the same time as my presentation. I knew how to do it on Kaltura when we were on Blackboard. I don't even know if we have it on what's the new one called? Canvas. If we do, I have no idea how to access it. I'm not super great with technology when it comes to that kind of stuff, so I'm just gonna have to do this presentation as its own separate video upload alongside the PowerPoint, and then I guess I'm just gonna try to make sure that I can, with the video, link it up and make sure that I'm going over each slide as best as possible. So I chose CBU's softball team. The reason I chose to observe CBU's softball team is that I already interned in the APC, or the Athletic Performance Center, so I had constant access to their team lists throughout the week, and they were one of the last teams still coming in to train. This was sort of an awkward time for class and teams. Pretty much everybody was leaving for summer. The only people that were really still there were baseball and softball was still coming in for lifts, maybe a couple of weeks extra compared to baseball. So that's the main reason why I chose softball, was just access. I've also been working with the softball team for almost the longest out of the teams. It was wrestling, and then I started working with softball maybe a couple of weeks afterwards. So I'm semi-familiar with the teams, very familiar with the strength coach, pretty used to and familiar with their lifts. How are the athletes affected by different aspects of their environment and culture? So there's several different environmental and sociological factors that affect these athletes, such as team/coach dynamics, school environment, living on campus versus at home, and separation from family while attending semesters. Most of the CBU softball team right now are younger years. There weren't many seniors. I think there was a total of, I think it was 4 that were leaving. We had a lot of freshmen. I think over half of the team were freshmen, so that's definitely going to impact them a lot more than maybe other teams would, as these were individuals that are on their first year of college. Everything that they're doing is going to be super new, probably going to be the very first time that they've ever lived away from home. If not, still looking really small time frame. These are 18, maybe 19-year-olds for the majority of the team. As a softball team, there's a lot of individuals involved. The team was around 30 people, I believe. This gives many opportunities for things such as competitiveness amongst the athletes when training, social factors of interacting with others, especially with them all being new. None of them knew who they were, right? A lot of freshmen, a lot of new faces. That could be coming in the form of encouragement from their teammates, from their coaches, possibility of negative interactions from teammates that might not get along. This can lead to changes in motivation intensity, motivation type, where one might find themselves looking to change the rationale for improvement, from wanting to train for the sake of improving task-oriented goals to wanting to beat a big team that is coming up in a future game, or maybe do better than a teammate that they might be at odds with when trying to take priority of a position. Especially when you have on softball and baseball teams a lot of individuals typically filling the same exact role. I mean, you'll have, I believe there's a half a dozen pitchers. Maybe it's a tad bit less than that, but you have, anywhere between, I want to say it's 4 to 6 on the team. Most, if not every single one of them, lives on campus. This also creates a different experience when you're constantly tied to and involved with and at the school. You don't really get a chance to break away, right? You have classes Monday through Friday, you have training Monday through Friday. You're going to be sort of stuck, right? You're going to be there most of the time. You might have the weekends to be able to get away and do whatever you need to do, unless you have games, in which case, guess what? You're still stuck. This can be a good or a bad thing, really depends on the experience. I'd say for them, they seem to all get along really well. There's usually a good group of them, split up groups of close to, I'd say, 10. I'd say the team was split up into almost even thirds whenever they would come in for their lifts. Stress, anxiety, and competition. Anxiety is something that ranges based on the individual, the environment, and specific scenarios. It was found that within the female populace of collegiate athletes, they experience more anxiety, and furthermore, those in team-based sports face more somatic anxiety versus those in single-person sports, which can result in concentration disruption, perhaps further inducing said stress. Specific large events can also lead to this increase in anxiety, such as big tests for classes or important games/tournaments, leading to an overall increase in anxiety levels with concern about performing well. For newer individuals, anxiety can also be a sociological factor, dealing with a team of new individuals that they don't know yet and are required to interact with in heavy amounts without a more gradual introduction, just being thrown in the mix of socializing with dozens of new individuals while still being expected to perform regular duties. Again, super exacerbated on the team currently as they're mostly freshmen. Stress is something that also accompanies everyone. Being a D1 collegiate athlete brings a specific concoction of stress that is very much unique to that population of individuals. They have to deal with the stress of time management. They're training constantly 5-6 times a week. They have games, softball. I want to say baseball is 56 and softball I think has 48 games in their season. Might be a tiny bit more. Regardless, it's a lot of games. They're playing constantly nonstop. They're traveling constantly nonstop. So their time management has to be real tight. They have sport training and lift training constantly. They have their games that they have to manage. They have school that they have to manage. Some of them might have jobs they have to continue to manage. So the stress of being a full-time athlete, sport training, lifting weights, classes, also then having to consider travel time and relationship factors. They're going to have whatever personal relationships that they would like to upkeep, whether it be friends, romantic relationships, family. And then competition going to be very prominent aspect of sports when you're talking about something like a D1 softball team. Sorry, getting lost a little bit. Competition is a very prominent aspect of sports when participating in something like a D1 league, such as the softball players at CBU. As is to be expected at the level of competition that is present in D1 athletics, the softball team is highly motivated to improve, compete, and win. I believe that through my time spent interning at the Athletic Performance Center and watching the team as they do their weekly lifts, this is done much more so in the form of cooperation, particularly heightened by their physical and sociological environments, where they are constantly surrounded by not only each other but also coaches, forced to be tightly integrated into each other's lives. So in comparison to the possibility of having those negative interactions, I feel like that didn't really occur. It seemed like most of them got along really well and were really good at motivating and hyping each other up when they were training. Goals. I know I didn't do particularly well on this one on my capstone, and I haven't really had the time to go through and change it the way I would like to, so it's mostly the same as it was before. Outcome goals. Short term, working on the mental aspect of being present and not dwelling on prior plays/mistakes. Long term, being able to throw the ball more accurately. Then I have performance goals, being more explosive. Any of the times that I hear players talking about performance and wanting to play better, it's usually in the form of being able to throw farther/faster or hit the ball hit the ball harder, so it's more explosive in terms of improving performance. And then feet work of some kind, whether it be running faster, being able to change direction faster. I remember specifically working a couple of weeks ago with Victoria. She was doing a few different exercises to work on her footwork, and she was doing broad jumps because she was struggling with explosiveness and propelling off of the ground. And then she was also doing I can't remember the name of it, but basically just working on directional movement change and being explosive off of changing direction. And then process goals. Short-term goal, time management with training, school, relationships, free time, and other responsibilities. Long-term goal, building relationships and connections with teammates. And then strategies for these goals. Outcome goal, short term, working on trying to work past any mistakes previously made, not dwelling on anything that you messed up previously or in the last play, last swing, whatever it is, and remind yourself that you can't change what has already happened. Force yourself to be intentional in whatever you're doing now, focusing on the task that is at hand and putting all attention and effort toward whatever it is that you're doing. Long-term goal, spend extra time throughout the week throwing at targets to practice your accuracy, lay out markers across the field at specific markers that you would normally be throwing to in a game, and throw an extra 10 to 20 balls at each marker with a focus on accuracy. Performance, when working on being more explosive for the sake of throwing and hitting a ball, it's good to not only do explosive movements, but also focus on sport-specific movements. This could be something like Olympic movements for overall explosive power, power clean, snatch, clean and jerk, high pulls, and then working on something like lateral medicine ball throws or rotation medicine shot put throws for sport-specific movements. Either way, focusing on doing 1 to 3 reps for, maybe 3 to 5 sets of an all-out, super explosive as fast as you can set. Increasing sprint speed / directional change relies on performing sprint / sprint-like work. This will exist in the form of acceleration / max velocity training, working on different mechanics, and training drills that force desired movement patterns. So you're going to have a lot of sprinting, doing a lot of wall drills to increase your muscle patterning, making sure that you're hitting your 90 degrees at your hip, your knee, your ankle. Running 10 yards, 40s, shuffle sprints, and directional change drills. And then for process goals, we have short term. Focusing on time management should rely on first understanding your schedule and what is going to be expected / required of you. Then you can lay out a plan around that schedule while fitting in more flexible things that you need to complete that aren't beholden to specific time markers, such as your classes, practice, or games, which are obviously going to be set to a specific time that you yourself cannot be changing. This is mostly going to rely upon planning and making sure that you have everything laid out and designated to specific times. Long-term goals. Building relationships with teammates is something that will need to be worked on and developed over time through small interactions like working together during practices, games, and lifts, while also maybe forcing yourself to go beyond that and making friendly conversation and plans outside of the scope of normal team activities. Course-specific concept and its connection to biblical themes of helping others. Proverbs 3:27. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due when it is in your power to act. As a coach or a sports psychologist, you obviously have the power / ability to help and do good for the athletes that you are working with. Being able to assist them through many different psychological means, such as applying different cognitive behavioral training methods, setting realistic long-term and short-term goals, modifying or enhancing internal / external motivations, etc. And course takeaways. 2 things that were covered in this course that I personally resonated with and I think are the most helpful for me as a coach were the concepts of motivation and goals and how each of them can be broken down into different types and be utilized to assist an athlete in their training. Being able to identify motivation or lack thereof can be a helpful tool and offer insight into the intentions behind why an athlete might compete or how you can try to modify their reasoning to better suit their needs as an athlete for growth. Goals are very similar in the sense that you can use them as a tool to incite positive change in the behavior / performance of an athlete by setting realistic markers for them to strive for that elicit not just physical change, but psychological change that could promote better cognitive behavioral patterns that lead to physical improvements. Thank you.